Hi, my name is Mark, and I saw a video the other day that prompted me to make this one. Partially because I recognized the area that it was shot. It was in a local area, but the topic on it was EVP, or electronic voice phenomena. Um, a lot of people have made these recordings, which they attribute to ghosts. A little bit about my background so you understand some of the context is I've worked on electronics most of my life and am familiar with radio. I'm an amateur radio operator. I work in two-way radio, also been a computer programmer, network consultant, troubleshooter, that sort of thing. And in the video I saw several problems, which quite frequently the people making the videos don't address, and probably don't really even understand uh, what they're doing. But I noticed this clip that was made down at Angel's Gate, so I went and did a little bit of investigation of my own, just to show some of the things that can be found. And I'm going to play the clip for you here.
Are you good?
Now, one of the things I usually see in these clips is that, to start with, the voices are never clear. They're usually relying on some kind of text or somebody telling you what you're going to hear. Um, that in itself, the suggestion is enough to get people saying, oh, yeah, I heard it. Whereas I like to take another approach and actually see if I can hear what they say. Most of the time, I can't. But there's a very common cause for electronic voices, which in other contexts people may recognize, but in this, they're not taking into account. The first thing that I would want to eliminate in catching something like this is radio interference. So, since this was a location that I could actually drive to, and I actually already knew something about it, there was a fairly obvious possible cause that you'll see a little bit later. But I went down to the site and took some sample readings with the spectrum analyzer. The first thing I did is I actually went to an alternate site out by Wayfarers Chapel just to get a baseline reading, and you'll see that here. Now, in this picture, you can see there's a spike in the graph there. It's about minus 75 dBm, which is fairly typical for radio signals. It's within a range that a radio receiver can pick up fairly well. Now, moving over to Angel's Gate itself, I've got a little bit of strip of video that shows the buildings that were shown in the EVP clip that was posted. But there's something that the person that shot it neglected to do. Now, possibly they didn't know that this was relevant. Perhaps the building was less interesting, doesn't look as spooky, it's more modern. But if you follow right around, you see that there's a marine exchange right at the same site, along with their radio towers. Then, taking the spectrum analyzer reading at the same location, you can see that there's another spike on the graph, clear up at minus 30 dBm. Now, to explain what that is an extremely strong signal. Stronger than you typically see unless you're right next to a transmitter, which the Marine Exchange building has multiple transmitters. So that's not too much of a surprise. Now, you may think, since they were using an audio recorder, that this might be irrelevant, but it isn't, because what can happen with extremely strong signals is that other circuits, or even as much as a wire contact, can, under the right conditions, demodulate the signal. So you would have a voice of some sort which gets demodulated and gets into your recording, though you didn't intend to. For those that used to build electronic kits, it was very common to, if you built one of the little radio receiver kits, for you to go through and be able to tune in nothing but the local strongest station, and you couldn't get anything else. This is a similar kind of effect, is that any audio circuit in a strong enough radio signal field could record a voice. And one of the interesting things is that, when I put out these possibilities like this, there's always somebody that, usually getting rather agitated, that labels me as a skeptic and criticizes me for lack of faith, etc. In some ways I am a skeptic, but I've actually seen things which I couldn't explain. But I don't have any documented cases of that, so it's a little hard to make a video out of it. But one of the big things that I like to get to is what really happened. And part of doing that when you've got something that's unexplained is to go through what your possible and plausible explanations are. And in this case, they missed a very major one, which is the more likely cause, if you go by Occam's razor, for what they recorded. And a lot of times I think these type of errors are by people running around with equipment that they don't understand. They haven't learned to use it properly. I've got another little piece of video from the same group here that shows them using an EMF meter. But there's a visible error in the video in that he is using his phone as a recording device and holding the phone in one hand and the EMF meter in the other hand. The problem being that the phone is a radio transceiver. And in fact, he points out in the video that there's a response to his voice. But modern phones have a voice command system in it, whether it's Hey Siri or Hey Google, which uses external processing to decrypt or decode the voices. So it's very possible that every time he spoke, that the phone was transmitting in order to be able to decode those voices. And several times I've contacted groups like this with an attempt to try and validate some of their findings, give them suggestions on how to set up the equipment for a better test. But almost invariably they get agitated with me and kind of encourage me to go away. But I'm really a big believer that the more interesting thing is the thing that you've done all the possible tests that you can on and still can't explain it. That's what I find interesting rather than the easily explainable.